Good evening, everyone. Today, I'd like to present how to run the sample code of exercise 3. This video is recorded using StreamYard.com. I think I have been using this for quite a few years. So let's get started. First of all, I'm going to open the code. So let me see I think it's already opened. So code.slash. So over here, this is the code for backend. This is a code for the front end. Only four files. The backend is server.js, front end is index.html, main.css, app.jsx. What I'm going to do is I'm going to run the background on the backend first, and then run the front end, and then I'm going to explain line by line for the code in the back end and then front end. Okay, so let's open the front end and back end over here. This is okay. So this is going to be back end, and this is the front end. I'm going to just type in npm start. So the back end is going to be running. And then, as you can see, it's the web service running. Also, I'm able to connect to a database successfully. So that's a good sign. So before I run the front end, let's look at the back end code a little bit. I believe I need to open the I need to open the code over here. Okay, here we go. So in the back end, let me just make it smaller. So the back end, first of all, we are going to check server.js, the back end. We have a 3 endpoint we can try. The first one is basically the root, which I can identify by this. So this is a local host over here. And I already have done that. So basically, this is the first one. So over here, this is the XAMPP, which I opened the MySQL interface. So this is the first endpoint. If you enter this, I should see welcome to the DB class. So that means the backend is working. And then the next thing is I can try is so this is the XAMPP over here. Next thing I can try is this endpoint, list all. It's going to return all the four tuples of the student. And then this is the third endpoint, which only lists a particular student. I can try 2, okay, try 1. So each endpoint, each URL over here is corresponding to a call to one of the endpoint. Okay. So so this is the code for the first endpoint, which mapping the root directory to this function over here. And then this is the list all, and then this is implementation, select from the table. And then this one is to select for particular ID. Okay, I'm going to explain more in detail. Now I know the backend is working now. So what I can do is I can try the front end. So the front end, in particular, we just need to go here, front end. So it's going to be npm. It's going to be npm and then run diff. Okay, so that will run in the front end. And then now the front end is working. All you need to do is, click this, or you can copy paste this URL 5173, and then this is the front end you're going to see. And this is exactly give you the select result right here. Okay. So now let me explain how the back end code and the front end code working. And by the way, in order to see all this file over here, you need to finish all the steps that I described in the exercise instruction. So let me see. So you need to start from here, step 1. So this is how you run a sample code all the way to step 16. Only when you finish all of this, then you are able to see all the file in the front and in the back end. So because, for example, this npm install is going to install all the file for the front end. So let's look at back end code for now. The back end code is essentially, first of all, you're going to import 3 package. Express is for the web server, MySQL is for database server, and then this is for the integration of front end and back end. And you just need to instantiate the app, which is Express application web server. And then you're going to say, I'm going to use the course instance. Initially, you're going to create a DB over here using the for argument. Don't change it for now. So I just use this, and I'm connecting to the database test, as you can see over here. And then actually, if you look at the database, which is the first tab over here, then you're able to see the students. It's not students on the test. So you have 4 tuples right here that I created using SQL by typing here the SQL statement that we have. Okay, so once do that, here's I'm trying to see if the database connection is successful. If successful, I'm going to say connect to the database. Otherwise, I'm going to just give this error message to console. Okay, and that's what you see when we run it. So now we have the 3 endpoint. Now, the most important part is we need to understand app.get. It's a method call which is going to map a URL. The URL is a relative path, which is actually start from using the port number here, 8081. The app.listen is start a web server listener, but the app.get is trying to bind URL to a particular function. And this is an anonymous function. You don't see the name. You only see the argument, in this case, 2 arguments, request response. It's always these 2 request response. This is a typical endpoint for the for the server side, for the backend. And then in this case, I simply return a message in JSON format. On the other hand, for list all, we create a select star SQL statement, and then we use DB query to execute it. But this DB query not only going to execute HTML, the result is going to be serve as the input of the next function, which is right here. So this function is going to take 2 input, either the error or data, which is both of them are the result of executing the statement. So if it's error, means when I run a statement, I have an error, then I'm going to return the JSON format of the error. Otherwise, and simply going to return the data, which is a table, basically. On the other hand, if I'm not just going to, if I just want to get a particular student information, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use URL here, student slash comma ID. This simply means there's a suffix, and this suffix is going to be bound to ID. Okay, it's used comma ID, but simply means this is ID is a variable. It's not a string. So it's not like student is a string, but comma ID is not a string, it's a variable. And then it's going to bind, this UI is going to bind to this function, okay? What does this function do? This function is going to, first of all, it's going to execute this SQL. One thing that you see is this SQL has a question mark. Why? Because it's called a dynamic SQL. The question mark need to be bound to a particular concrete value. And that question mark value is actually coming from the browser, not from here. So when you call this, we need to provide a value like we did, either 1, 2, or 3, 4. So what we are going to do is we retrieve the real value using request.params.id. And that will get the ID from the URL. And then here, we are going to replace the question mark by the student ID. But why do we put a student ID in a square bracket? Because this is actually a list. In case we might have multiple question mark, so then we're going to have multiple elements in this array. And in this example, we only have one question mark, so that's a special case, but still we need to put it in a list as a general case. And then what's going to happen is once that select statement is executed, again, it's going to produce two output, which is serve as the input for next function, the anonymous function. So we have error and the data, which is going to check if it's error, we're going to return the error message. If there's no error, there's also a possibility that the result is empty. So we also print out another error over here. Otherwise, we are going to return the element. Notice over here, we only return one element. Where here, we return a list of elements. So the type is different, okay? So that's very much for the back end. Then for the front end, as a matter of fact, when we run the front end here, when we type this URL, what's going to happen is actually we are retrieving the index.html right here in the front end, which is this file. So I already opened here. The index.html is very simple. It's just HTML and only one single element, okay? And of course, I can add more elements like WACO1, WACO2, maybe one element for one select statement. But now let's keep it simple. We only have one element. You can always add more element if you like. And then this element is going to be modified by the main.js. Okay, so let's look at what main.js do. Main.js only call one function, which is create loot. And that function is going to retrieve the element of loot, which is identified here, the ID equal to loot, and then try to render using the app function defined right here. Okay, so this app function have two components. First of all, it's going to retrieve the data from backend, and then which is a table in JSON format, and then render it. The word render, I can say it's basically formatting it. Format the result in HTML. In this case, the format is going to put in a nice table with a nice heading and so on, using CSS index.css to render it. So those of you who really know how to modify index.css, you can make it more fancy, so make it look good. So that's how it works over here. So let me go a little bit more detail over here. So in the beginning over here, we have, as a matter of fact, I think I already give more comment in the server side. So if you look over here, let's go over here, give you a little better explanation. So front end over here, app.js. So I give more comment over here. So read this version is better. So I explain every line over here. So so if you do fetch, that means it's going to call the backend route, which is this UI over here, and it's going to return the data, which is the list. So so what is a fetch then a catch? Basically, this is actually a chain function. The output of this is going to be the input of the next function. Again, everything you see arrow over here, it's an anonymous function. This is input, and then this is the body of the function. Okay. In the case you only have one statement, I guess you don't need a curly bracket. You just because it's one statement. So so this is give you the response, and then this line simply convert response to the JSON format. And then this one is going to set the global variable data with the local variable of data. This data is the output of this. Okay. And then we set, this is the argument. And so set data is going to set this global variable to be the output of the of this line. And then here, we also try to catch the error. So if any of this above line here have error, then we are going to just print out in the console. Okay. The return is a body, is take the data format, take the data over here, global variable, and then try to format it. Here's the heading of the table. And then in the body, we use a map method of the data. So data is an object, which is a list of students. We're trying to do iterator. So consider this is a function that take one of the row and the index. So I is the index from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and D is the particular row. So for that particular row, what do? We create a row over here using tr, and then create a cell using td. So the first cell is the ID, then the name, then the date. And here we're trying to convert the into the JavaScript format, and then d.gpa. Okay, so in this way, all the value are going to be embedded. And by the way, what is this curly bracket? Curly bracket is essentially another language, not HTML, JSX, in which it's going to retrieve a value and put over here. Actually, it's a syntax sugar of out.println. So which out.println is going to print out the value for this variable and put it right here. So the curly bracket is just a syntax sugar over here. Okay, so that explain both the back end and the front end. Now let me explain a little bit how you're going to do this exercise, because this. So the first thing you're going to do is probably open them over here and create more table. Maybe table 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the second thing you're going to do is probably you're going to back the server, and then just learn from this example 1, example 2, example 3. Maybe for next example, then you copy here, and then copy this, and then instead of select from one table, you need to select from 2 tables. Okay. So and then the next thing you're going to do is probably you're going to modify the front end, add a few elements over here, and then in the function you're trying to going to be also modify each element, so that each element is going to be rendered separately. In addition, here we only called app function to formatting one result, which is called this backend route over here. So you need to copy this and then create another function. Maybe you can call app1, app2, I don't know, and then change the fetch to the corresponding endpoint, and then changing this to the one that you like to have. One thing you need to be very careful is you need to know the data type. For example, In the back end, this is in the back end, this list all give you the list, but keep in mind this will not give you the list. This will give you data 0, so it's one element. So if you trying to call, if you try to call the student and one, this is not going to work because I cannot iterate. Data is one element. It's not a list. So just be careful. You need to match in the data type between the front end and back end. In addition, probably you also need to match in the heading. In this case, we only have 4 ID, name, birthday, GPA, and you need to be watch out what this will return. When this return different column, then all these column need to be, changed accordingly. Okay, and the same over here. So all these format in the front end need to matching in format to the back end in terms of how many column you have, what is the data type for each column, and so on. Okay, so with that, then you should be able to work out everything. But let me know if you have any question. Good luck.